Hi there, you're watching The 51% here on France 24, a show about women reshaping our world. I'm Erin Ogunkeye, coming up for you in this edition. In Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, women bear the brunt of the latest resurgence of violence linked to M23 rebels. Hundreds coming forward with reports of rape in the very refugee camp where they're supposed to be protected. We'll have the details in a special France 24 report. From discouraging women from participating in politics to threatening democratic institutions, even national security, misogynist trolling online is chipping away at women's rights globally. I'll speak to gender equality expert Lucina Di Meco in a few minutes for more. And India's most popular spectator sport enters a new era with a successful inaugural season of the Women's Cricket Premier League. The WPL is already attracting record numbers of viewers, media coverage, and sponsorships. But first, since M23 rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo re-emerged from a period of dormancy in 2021, some 800,000 people have been displaced in the eastern North Kivu province. In some ways, women are bearing a heavier burden of the conflict than men. A growing number of them are coming forward with testimonies of rape and abuse in refugee camps. Our team sent this report from the Bulengo camp near Goma.
Jo is deeply traumatized. The attack she suffered while fleeing clashes between the DRC's armed forces and M23 militia is still fresh in her mind. She was targeted by 4 men as she sought shelter in this camp in Bulengo, North Kivu.
It happened as I was walking back to the camp. During the day, I usually go to the nearby village to sell some vegetables. That's when they arrived, dressed in uniforms, machetes in their hands. They threatened to kill me and raped me, all 4 of them.
Stories like Jo's are not rare in this 100,000-strong displacement camp.
Men destroyed me while I was looking for wood to cook. Now I only look for woods really near the camp. I'm terrified, but what choice do I have? I need to find ways for my son and I to survive.
Victims of sexual abuse go through life carrying physical and psychological scars. Recently, some have come together to try to find help in this tent in Bulengo. This clinic is focused solely on sexual violence cases. Here, they can discreetly confide in the nurses and be treated.
These are my medical kits.
This nurse prescribes medications and vaccines to prevent infections. Estimating the number of rapes committed during this conflict is almost impossible. Nurses, though, say that consultation requests are multiplying. Suzanne now sees an average of 10 women per day.
They arrive here in tears. It's very emotional. We listen to them, we try and help them, and we tell them that what happened is not their fault. So with time, they manage to express how they feel.
Since the clinic opened in February 2023, the nurses have counseled and cared for more than 200 sexually abused women. Women make up a large proportion of those fleeing the fighting in the DRC's east. Humanitarian groups fear the number of rape victims will rise dramatically as the conflict drags on.
Though the context and specific motivations differed, there was a common thread behind the recent resignations of New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern and Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon. That's misogynistic trolling and gender-based disinformation online. It is a pervasive global problem with consequences going far beyond the personal lives of any individual politicians. For more, we'll cross to gender equality expert Lucina Di Meco. She also spearheaded a recent study on the phenomenon entitled Monetizing Misogyny. Lucia, thank you so much for joining us.
It is such a pleasure to be here with you.
So first, what is gender disinformation? How does it manifest differently than general misinformation?
About gender disinformation when really the fake content that can be both at the level of images that are very prevalent when it comes to women as well as narratives really are very gendered in their nature and most often target women, particularly women leaders and women journalists.
So your study, Monetizing Misogyny, looked into the specific cases of several female activists and politicians. What did your research into their experiences show, and what were the consequences?
We see that all over the world, women are targeted with overwhelming amounts of fake content, abusive images that then lead to death threats and really abusive trolling campaigns that have enormous consequences on their lives of their families. We see rape threats of their young children being an ever more common tactic used to try and discourage those women from continuing in their political career and in the very important political battles that they are doing.
Lucina, financial interest is a big part of your findings. In what ways do these different platforms monetize misogynist hatred?
We know that digital platforms' business model is really based on their ability to have people engaging with their content as much as possible, regardless of the veridicity of this content. And so we know that some of the most hateful, outrageous, horrible images and narratives, the most horrible content is really driving attention, and therefore social media platforms have really turned a blind eye to their own commitment to democracy and human rights.
In listening to you, Lucina, I think the highly publicized Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case really perfectly illustrates what your study shows. Disinformation in that case was crucial in shaping public opinion and also generated profits.
Unfortunately, it is like that. More and more we see through our interviews that it isn't only women leaders that are being targeted. Very often it's even women that are in the public sphere for any type of different reason, and women that are really seen as being at the forefront of very important battles, be it battles for women's rights or women that are spokespeople for the Me Too movement, for important feminist issues, for sexual reproductive health, women that are supporting the rights of immigrants and refugees and other minorities are often the most targeted, particularly in Europe.
There's another kind of concrete consequence that you discuss in your report, Lucina. What is the link that you draw between gender disinformation specifically and concrete threats to democracy or even national security?
Absolutely. So first of all, I say we cannot think of a democracy when more than 50% of the population isn't fully participating because they're being discouraged from speaking out, because they're being really silenced. And we're finding that digital platforms are becoming an ever more successful tool, in fact, to silence women. So this is one aspect, but a very important aspect is also that malign actors and illiberal actors like Russia very often are actually using digital platforms as a way to continue to disseminate their disinformation and their conspiracy theories, and are finding in the manosphere, so in a set of blogs and Facebook groups that are misogynist in nature, very fertile ground. More and more we see that the women that are targeted are also the women that are outspoken against this type of foreign interference.
As a final question for you, what kinds of solutions, legislative or otherwise, do you think should be adopted?
I think that it's really important to understand that the status quo does not represent freedom of expression. It's very important to understand that today women are truly not free to express themselves online. We need stronger, better regulations and digital platform standards to ensure that everyone has the ability to speak online without being silenced by bullies.
Lucina Di Meco, author of the report Monetizing Misogyny, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Well, women's sports tend to be much less prominent than men's, contributing to the gender pay gap, funding disparities, and even propagating stereotypes. But the success of India's inaugural Women's Premier League in cricket is proving that mentalities may be changing. The WPL has attracted record numbers of viewers, sponsorships, and media coverage, encouraging young hopefuls to dream big, as Oliver Ferry reports.
6 mornings a week, it's the same routine. Anisha, 11 years old, slips on her cricket spikes dusty from the city's sports fields. Armed with batting pads, helmet and bat, she heads to the station with her father. The young girl travels 80 kilometres by train to Mumbai, where she does cricket training for 6 hours.
I want to make it in life, and that's why I play cricket. I want to become somebody, and that's why I travel from home to play cricket here.
At the cricket ground, she meets her teammates, mostly boys. There's not yet a team for young girls because of a lack of players. But India has just held its first ever women's cricket championship, a league that Anisha wants to one day be part of.
I'd like to play in the Women's Premier League. A lot of the teams have been established recently. There's a lot of money in it.
Long considered unprofitable by India's cricket authorities, the new Women's Premier League has attracted hundreds of millions of dollars of investment, with good reason, given it has record viewing figures for women's sport.
Earlier there was thinking that girls should not play cricket or sports, but now the time has changed. If you see in any sports, not only in cricket, in badminton, gymnastics, swimming, most of the girls are doing very well in India. Cricket is going to go higher up for the girls and women's. And the standard also is going to go up actually. They're raising the standard.
A measure of the growing popularity of the women's game is the 7.6 million Instagram followers of Smriti Mandana, the star of the national team and captain of one of the league's new franchises. The 26-year-old all-rounder is already the Premier League's most expensive player.
Well, that's all we have for you for this edition. We do love to hear your comments and story ideas, so do connect with us via our Facebook or Twitter pages. And until our next show, goodbye for now.